Okay, hello everybody, welcome back to the madness. I hope you're ready because I'm gonna guess this is gonna be a lengthy video because there are, I believe, 62 UnFCed songs on all Strums regarding Rock Band Network 2. That is indeed correct. That is the count. 62 songs. The very first one of these videos I ever made was about Rock Band Network 150. I think that was 70x songs. So we're going way back to the long form video. And if you thought the half-hour ones were long, well, just wait and see. So, 62 songs. This is all Strums. 61 of these are on guitar. One of them is on keys. And that might sound a bit strange, but there is only one all Strums spreadsheet. There is not an individual spreadsheet for bass or keys, so the keys song just... If it's a keys only song, by the way, there's no guitar part, so instead that's just going to get transposed over to this sheet. Maybe if, for whatever reason, there's demand on a bass all Strums, keys all Strums, who the hell knows, I won't be the one making them, then this might change. But that is what we have right now. One thing before I begin... actually, a couple of things before I begin, as there always are. First, I have done research on these songs. Research, come on. You're playing a game, come on, buddy. But I've looked at these songs at least a little bit in depth, so I should know what the money sections are in each of these. But there is always the chance, because I'm not totally familiar with every single one, that I've missed something that makes it difficult. Now, this won't really matter for the later songs. But for the ones that I've deemed easiest, maybe there's like a mini trill, because you only need half a second ridiculously fast trill to make a song extremely difficult on all Strums. So if I've missed any of them, I apologize, but that the song might be harder than I'm saying it is. But for all intents and purposes, I think I've covered what's difficult about them. Also, I have put these songs in an order from easiest to hardest. Now, I didn't need to do that, but I thought that would make it a little bit more interesting and get a bit more difficult as we get along. Like any breakdown, it's not perfect, and I literally just put the songs in order as I went through them. So there might be some discrepancies, things I'm saying that are not very difficult, higher than sections that are extremely difficult. But it's going to be, just about roundabout easiest to roundabout hardest, and the hardest songs, well, you already know what they are if you're at all familiar with Rock Band Network 2. So please don't get hung up on the fact that I'm saying that one trill is harder than another, because it doesn't really matter. Plus, I'm not exactly a virtuoso all Strums player anyway, so take everything with a pinch of salt. So I think that is all I have to say to begin with, other than the fact that this is Rock Band Network 2 has been weeded before 1. I don't know why. I think there are fewer songs on Rock Band Network 2, maybe that has something to do with it. But Network 1 is not weeded, so I haven't just glossed over it. It's just, there's like 800 songs left, so I'm not going to do a breakdown on that, obviously. So, let's get on with it. Some of these are sleepers, some of them you'll have heard of. So let's do it. Number 62. I'm not actually going to say the number for each one of these, because I'll forget. Right, the first song, easiest song by my eyes, Nemesis. Now this is a song that's familiar to all of us who've played Warriors of Rock, but this is also on Rock Band Network 1. Reason it's difficult, if you're at all familiar, will be very obvious. Just a really quick section, and that's pretty much, I think that is it. That's the only reason this song is not done, so not a particularly difficult section, especially not compared to what we're going to be seeing later on. Kind of weird note snap, but the patterns are simple, it's just chimneys and triplets. That's it. Moving swiftly on, next one is going to be Skeletonizer. Now this is a bit of a longer song, it's about 6 minutes, but the main thing of note that I could see was this in solo C. So that is easier than Nemesis, but the song is a hell of a lot longer, and that happens over 5 minutes into the song. So there you go. Yeah, not very difficult. And also a theme of this is that a lot of these are going to be like tapping based things you would normally tap or whatever. I guess with that you wouldn't tap it, but just kind of a tricky pattern because it's in threes. Okay, the next one is Rise Above. Disappointingly not Black Flag, instead Van Frischer. So I went through this entire song, which is about 6 minutes, only to find that the only part of any note is in a section called Chorus B, right at the end. So here we are. Honestly, that could be that's the easiest, like, hardest section, but again, it's 5.5 minutes into the song. Just all or nothing it, and someone will do it. Not very notable. The rest of the song, genuinely, I couldn't find any reason why it was UnFCed. Next one, another 6-minute song, which it sort of makes sense why these aren't done, because it's a 6-minute song with like one difficult section kind of far in. But yeah, Our Finest Hour, Halcyon Way. This I could only find guitar solo B. Less linear pattern. All of it just snapped consistently, so no nonsense there. Just quite a lot of it. Again, 5 minutes 10 into the song. What is with that? Okay. Next song is Sham Piety, or Piety, I don't know how it's pronounced. Much of the same, except this song isn't quite as long. Just the guitar solo on this one. So the most notable thing there, the trills, as you would imagine. But faster sections than we've seen so far, and there are multiple sections that are kind of tricky. So yeah, that one, only 4 minutes into the song. I'm not going to tell you how far every single section is, it just makes more sense for these earlier ones. Much like the next one, which is Turn Around by Bumblefoot. Solo is right at the end, but the song isn't too long. Just solo 1. So just make sure you don't overstrum like I did, and you'll be golden. As I say, just like 1/2 second to make something tricky, but the pattern isn't very difficult to one hand, and the strum speed isn't that high either, so that's another one kind of snipe for the picking. Make It Last, a sleeper, a song I had never heard of, but it's not that bad, it's kind of weird. And again in the solo, most of the time it is in the solo, let's face it. So here's the money. Yeah, so when you think it's all over, they come back in with the triplets, like, what's that song? Combination. So, yeah, kind of tricky, but again, 1 second of song that's kind of tricky, and that's it. Not a very long song either. Next one, we've got Van Frischer again, the first of the 3 duels, all of which are UnFCed still. And here it is. This has only a couple of kind of tricky parts. We've got these zigzags which aren't very fast, but they are awkward. We got those GRO zigs. Not very pleasant. But then you've got the, I guess, the money, technically, which is this. Just kind of quick triplets. So just be aware that they're there. They are pretty quick, but very, very simple pattern. Easier than probably just having the same triplet over and over again. That's the duel. Next one we got Time Bomb. I think the lowest, no, I'll take that back. It's not the lowest tiered songs that is UnFCed, but it is up there, or down there, should I say. Powerman 5000. Like, oh, I was a bit confused when I saw this done. I was like, what do you mean this is not FC'd? But actually, there is a bit of money. So, I'm going to play the solo through to the end. Nothing that's going to change the world, obviously, but definitely a sleeper. So a lot of triplet bursts from here. Not even the easiest pattern. And that is not as difficult as I made it look there, but unexpected. So yeah, again, right at the end, not the longest song, but yeah, unexpected. Next one is a bit of a meme. Put out the fire. That's what it's called. Again, it's just it's a case of like 1/4 of a second making a song difficult. So it's just the section outro A, of course. This is where the money is. As far as I could tell, the rest of the song was like tier 0 difficulty. Here it comes. That is, I mean, trills are very difficult on all the strums. That is a very fast trill. Now, it's so short that I would put it this far down, but like I don't know if I could actually do it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, songs like this suck, but they're also kind of funny because, like, again, another song I'd never heard of, and I never would have heard of on this until now. Clearly, really stupid. Nearly no incentive to grind it, but it's there. It's not FC'd. You could be the first. And the glamour and the glory. Next up is Presence Everlasting. 6 minutes. What? 6 minutes? No way. Alright. 2 guitar solos to look at. Kind of weird pattern. Not straight strumming all the way through. Easy to fluke, but does exist. And the second solo, kind of similar, I think. Actually a bit easier. But still, tricky. Mainly the first solo that's putting that high up. I mean, that is realistically easier than the song that we just looked at. But there's more of it. Next up, Hero. A fair amount of overlap with the 150 songs that were left at the tail end as well, by the way, as you'd expect. So Hero. I only picked one section, but it's tricky. Just kind of weird. I think there's these triplets that speed up and slow down. Again, very, very doable. Not difficult on one hand, but just a bit icky. Like, why? Why would anyone ever want to play this song? But anyway, next up, another long one. The Restless Mind. 6 minutes. I never would have guessed. Only 2 sections of note for me. There's 2G, which is the hardest. Not that bad. but then there's also to J, kind of chokeable. Not very difficult. I think I put it that high up because it's a long song again, and there are a lot of solos, but most of them are very basic. So it's only those two sections that I would deem you would need to know about. Next up, things I'll just pretend. So again, just the solo. Very tricky solo though. Not as bad as it is on 150 though, for sure. Probably, I mean, either half of that is kind of difficult, so just gotta get them both at the same time. Other than that, tier 0 song, which is what we like to see. A lot of songs like this that are placed low down, as you'd anticipate. Next up is Passing the Ace. Just kind of a really weird chart. Very difficult to read. Oh. Yeah. A weird pattern in 7s. Not really like any other song, and nor is it difficult to one hand, but it's just timing the strummings on that one. The strummings, what are you saying, buddy? Alright, Harmony of the Spheres. Let me guess. Oh, it's only 5 minutes, never mind. So this one, there's just a lot of it. None of it's very difficult. I'm just going to show the solo, but there are like minor shredding sections before this. No standout. Just a consistency check for intermediate all Strums players. And you got these easy sweeps for a while. Yeah, those triplets I think are as fast as it gets. Guitar solo M. Wow. Was it necessary? That's for you to decide. Alright, next up we got The Curse. First of, I think, 3 Ambient Dawn songs. So The Curse ain't that bad. Just kind of quick. Yeah, a few good attempts, that one would get done. Just the solo. Not really very consistent snaps and very strange patterns though, as well that sort of stuff does make all Strums a bit more difficult, which is why it's a bit further up. Next up we got the second duel, which is by Not Above Evil. This one might actually be too high. I don't remember this being that bad, but it's one of the longest songs on the list, about nearly 8 minutes. These are the worst parts. Kind of reminds me of Texas Flood. That's gotta be the hardest lick of the thing. Again, it's probably just a case of playing the song and not donking it away, but it's definitely there. Okay, we're getting into more tricky territory now. So next one is Sinner's Vengeance. Also difficult on guitar. So we've got solo 1 to 2A, I said. And the rest of the solo I don't think is very interesting. So yeah, just a few kind of quick things in that one. Very doable. Next up is Willow of Tears. Another Amberian Dawn tune. Both sections of the solo have something of note. The rest of this song is dead easy, but this is money. We've got trill-like patterns in there, but it's not really akin to actually playing a trill, luckily. Solo B definitely more just of a choke spot than anything that difficult on its own, but yeah. Next up is Amberian Dawn again, Zampo. Kind of similar sort of deal, but just maybe a little bit faster for a little bit longer. Yeah, that's quite fast. But again, it's only about 2 seconds worth of song. Next one is Legacy of Blood. Now this song is pretty fast paced all the way through, but it is the solos, again, that are difficult on all strums. Who would have thought? Not as bad as I expected though, because this was a 150 song that was very tricky. Just keeping that steady. There are quite a few triplet songs like that, and this is one of the easiest, I would say. We got solo 2 as a choke spot. Especially that bit. Yeah, probably worth just checking that bit out before you go for this. Alright, next one. Dance, Gavin Dance. Heat-seeking ghosts of sex. No solo, but it does have triplets. And quite a lot of them. So you just gotta be good. I'm not good at this, so I wouldn't be the candidate. It's not like it's that fast, but it's kind of like having two minds. You gotta, maybe it's easier to strum in 6s than 3s for this. But yeah, I think that is harder than it looks, that song, to be honest. Next up is Stellar Crash. Just shredding. I think Insanity of the Atoms might be done though, so this one shouldn't be so bad. Solo 1 and 2, but mainly 1. See, it just kind of just goes on forever. It does calm down, at least, but again, you just gotta be naturally quite good at all strums. There is a second solo. This is not as bad, though. Must have been some money in it, though, otherwise I wouldn't have written it down. Yeah. Consistent patterns at least, but not the easiest. Yes, that's one of the, I guess, heaviest as far as density of notable sections maybe so far, but none of them are too bad, maybe with the exception of the very beginning of the first solo, which is the best place to have the hardest section, I would say. Adoy. Okay, next one, a bit like Put Out the Fire. This one is unfortunate. Another 6-minute Halcyon Way song. We've got 2 trills. The first one is in this section. Already kind of tricky, but nothing that can't be managed. But then you've got this right at the end. Now that sucks. That's like nearly 15 seconds from the end of the song. Much harder trill. The rest of the song, not really anything notable besides that other small one. Not appealing to go for. Yeah, it sucks. It really does suck. The thing is that it doesn't look that interesting either. Like if it was mad, then it would be cool to show. But it's just like, yeah, there's a trill, and only a few people can do those. So good luck. Anyway, next one, End of Progress, not as high as its 150 counterpoint, but, or counterpart, should I say, but it's still tricky, not really for the same reasons. We got Jam 1D, which isn't that bad, but certainly notable enough. Zigzags, but 24th triplets zigzags, or 16th triplets zigzags, and then we've got the classic sections, admittedly. .3C, not so bad. 3D now, quite tricky. More chokeable, to be honest. Yeah, just a mess right at the end of that section and right at the very end of the song. Not too bad, but enough to make the song not look nice to go for. Next up, outro solo on Andromeda. Triplets, but strangely snapped triplets. So you just gotta get your strum speed right. It's 18 notes per second. It always feels like I'm strumming way too fast. So yeah, I feel like it's very easy to get just a bomb when going for something like this, but it's simple, it's just quite fast, you know what I mean? That's that. Nothing else in it as far as I know. Next up we got a bit more interesting one, Fire at Will. Kind of just late solo stuff here. I've selected F to K to show off. But this is the money section right here. Again, just really weird patterns. But there are numerous choke spots. Including that very annoying, right at the end, like, inaudible shred section. Main thing is solo G there, just being able to read it and then strum the right number of times. Okay, next one is our one keys song, which is Wabi Sabi. 2 sections of note. One of them is right at the beginning, piano intro C. Not too bad, considering it's what, like, only a minute in, but then you do have a big choke spot in the form of breakdown. So yeah, there are around 4 fast bits. And you just gotta do them. They're not that bad. They just kind of have a high peak NPS if you want. Okay, next up we've got There Is Nothing Left. Very quick licks in the solo. So I'm gonna go ahead and just show off the one that leads in the interlude as well. Which isn't really that notable, but might as well show it off. Just like very fast. Pattern isn't too bad, not really to one hand either, but it's just so fast. And although that's just triplets, that is also quite chokeable. So yeah, and the song isn't that long actually, but it is toward the end of the song, as many solos are. Okay, next up is Firefight. I'm getting some high NPS stuff here. So solo 1 isn't that bad, but notable enough to show off. Already pretty fast, but then solo 2 is where the cash is. So the pattern is very doable one-handed, but you gotta strum quite fast, and it is a lot easier to miss a note than I may have shown there. So yeah, still very doable. All of the songs so far have not been like, you know, incredible, I would say, although we're getting that way. I would say I could probably do just about everything we've covered so far. That goes for the next one too, Come Now Follow, which I think is the highest ranked Iberian Dawn song. There's just a lot of it, all in the solo. That is especially kind of difficult. Just the peak NPS is really horrible. We're seeing patterns that you would probably want to tap now at this point in the list, and that, like, the end of that section there, like, yeah, you probably would tap that normally. Well, actually, if you're on Rock Band, you would. I mean, I don't even think I would on Clone Hero, but yeah, that's where we sort of get a bit of left hand challenge. Next one is definitely something you would normally tap. It's the cascade effect. So this is going to be very obvious. It's not as bad as it looks, but it's kind of obvious. Like, for me, the main difficulty there is the swapping between the hand positions. So what I mean by that is that we've got this red, yellow, orange, straight down to that. Isn't very kind of Mr. Shiny Monkey, but yeah. And then 3C is just a bit quick. It's not really anything to write home for, but it's there. Next up, now this is where I'm probably out. We got Night by Gigacubes. So yeah, kind of like a harsh cut, I would say, at this point. This is where stuff is kind of serious. Night by Gigacubes, I think infamously like a really bad song, but here's the money. Just like very, very fast. Reminds you of stuff like The Singularity and Death in General. 2 songs of which we will see later on. But the speed we're looking at here is 21.33 notes per second, which is quite fast, I would say. Not quite I'm the One speed, and not for as long either, but when you've got to focus on fretting and there is a mini trill, that is not easy. So yeah, it lasts such a short amount of time that it's not that high up, but this is a fat FC, and everything from this point is. Next one is the lowest tiered song on the list. This is Sad Wings by Fallen Angel. Now, the reason for this is very similar to songs like Put Out the Fire and whatever that Halcyon Way song was called. Just really fast trill. If you're good at trills, this song will probably look quite easy, but for me it's just like that is what changes a song from doable to impossible. Like, I just can't do it. You know, it's a physical problem, and that's going to be the theme going on. So next up, for bit, and obviously the rest of the song is dead easy. It earns its lower tiering, but as far as all Strums is concerned, this is big money. Next up is a mess of a song, Forbidden City. There are a lot of different moments in this song that would be difficult, but I'll only show off some of them, kind of arbitrarily maybe, but you'll get the gist. That'll be the first. There's a trill in there, and then we've got triplets as well. And let's show this off. The whole song is kind of just like a free-form violin solo. See, that's not too fast, but the snap is weird. It's not always about speed. It's about being able to tell where you are when you're strumming. Little tricky bit there. Okay, the next thing I want to show is this part of the solo. Mainly the trill there. The red strumming bit, I think you would just strum through that normally on Rock Band 3 anyway, but I'm surprised I hit that trill. But unfortunately that is not it, because we've got the outro. So there you go, there's your choke spot, about as choke spot as you can get. Of course the trill isn't that fast, but it's right there at the end, and there are other small trills that I didn't show off too. Just, you don't want to go for it, right? Tell me you want to go for it, and then proceed to do it, if you're telling the truth. You know what I mean? It's just not nice. I mean, none of these songs look nice to go for, but some of them are a bit more interesting. That one is just awkward. Anyway, next is a Blink and You'll Miss It. This is category 2. Very fast. This one might be a bit high, but it's certainly not easy. So yeah, like that's just something you would tap, right? Where am I? I wanted to check the notes per second. So this is not going to be as fast as Night. But well, yeah, it's 19 and a half notes per second, so it's not that fast as far as just strumming on its own for a few measures. But we got, again, difficult position shifts. I think that one is high, but it's difficult. Okay, next up. One that probably isn't as bad as I expected it was going to be Omega Wave. The main riff, still a bit tricky, but actually making awesomes does eliminate the issue of the weird forcing, or the weird just note selection in general. So the main thing here is the solo, which is fast. The song isn't short either. Here comes the money. High notes per second. Again, I think this one is probably a bit too high on the breakdown, but And that trill isn't quite fast enough to be a major issue. But still, the peak notes per second in solo C is very fast, and the pattern isn't easy either. So that would explain why it's quite so high up. Next up, we got Lethean Tears, another long song with a big solo. This song is really boring to play outside of the solo as well, so bear that in mind. Solo 1. Now this is, again, really high notes per second. Not necessarily tapping material, but you gotta love the spark in the middle of that as well. This kind of Satch Boogie type pattern. So enjoy that. And then you got your choke spots, which would be the second solo, which is longer than the first, not quite as difficult. Not really anything tapping based. But it's not that obvious how many strums are in each sort of shredded bit. So yeah, very easy to overstrum, as is the case with a lot of stuff. The Tech FC is not that difficult. Solo B would be the most difficult part with that Spock, which I got lucky with. Not normally that easy to hit. But I think the fact that the rest of the song is so utterly boring does bump that up a bit for me anyway. Next up, we've got something I will never be able to do in a million years. Again, this is a bit of a harsh cut. We got Heaven's Calling. Now, this is one of our trill songs. Not the worst, but all of these are really bad. Not that long, but man. I would have a job one-handing that, just not on all strums. You know what I mean? So I don't know what I'm trying to demonstrate. Yes, just look at how much I need to twitch. But I mean, you get the idea. If you can do trills, you can do it. But again, it's not like it's just one trill. You gotta go up the fretboard. Okay. But again, it's a song that has like one difficult section. It's not that bad as far as consistent money. Next up is quite the opposite. Bit of a weird one to place. So this song is only a minute long. It's Kitty by Blue Fusion, and I put it this. It sounds like a bit low, but there's nothing in this song that is that incredible. But there is a lot of it. So yeah, I'll just play the whole thing because it's a minute. This is where I get serious. And more. I think that trill really close to the end is the worst part of it there, where you got the da-da-da-da. But yes, that song is not easy by any measure, but it's so short, and you wouldn't necessarily have to tap that song, really. The only bit that is like on, I mean, I tap all of it. I would tap all of it, but like for one-handers, you could easily one-hand that whole song. So the peak MPO isn't that fast. Still very difficult, but comprehensible. So yeah, next one is just is a joke. We got this just mad trill in the song Controller. Didn't even check the rest of the song, but just, I mean, this is where the Strums stuff starts to get like a bit of a joke. Is like nearly everyone will find that impossible. There is, I think there is some sort of Strums trill tech, but otherwise you got to be like, I don't even know what. I guess you could rake it, but then you got to one-hand it. And then there is like the Danny Johnson kind of thing, or I don't know if he was the first to do it, but that's how I refer to it. Just, I don't know. You can either do it or you can't, I guess. But that's what I mean. It's like 1 second, and the song's impossible. That's what Strums is like. At this point, yeah, okay. We got something that was not as difficult as I thought it would be. Is Thief of the Night Part 1. It's K-Trop, so your initial reaction is like, oh, it's impossible then. Well, not necessarily. Not easy. But more one-handable than you would think. I don't know how fast it is. It feels like it's about 20. But those two sections are not impossible by any means. And I think the rest of the song isn't really one-hand issues or Strums issues. You've got that the paradiddle riff, sure, but I mean that's not that bad in Strums, surely. So yeah, that one of the more manageable K-Trop songs. So it's possible. I would say that song can be done. Next up, Expert Mode. It's another trill song, but it's not like free except for the trill either. So here's solo 1. Really messy. Not the worst of it. Solo 2 is the worst of it. And we got another one. And you got that chokeable crap afterwards as well. But the trill, it's exactly the same sort of deal as Controller, in the sense that it just is too fast. So what are you going to do? The only difference is this time the rest of the song has some of the tricky stuff as well. So lovely. Next one is very difficult to place, so you'll see why. The Epic Part 3.7. Stupid title. But it's this. Like a nearly 500 note trill, the notes per second of which is 17. I don't know how doable that is. Like, it's not that fast, but it lasts forever. The stamina of doing a trill that fast for that long, unless you're like, this tech is perfect, I don't know how difficult that is. I mean, for me it's impossible, right? But like nearly all of these songs are now. So I don't know. This could be one of the easier ones if you're good at trills, or could be as hard as the hardest song, because it's just it's the problem with all strums, is stuff like this that's normally like nothing is now impossible. Well, that's also kind of cool to find this stuff out, which songs become incredible money that no one had ever heard of before. Okay, the final duel is by Rusty Cooley. So this one is, the tech FC is not absurd, but there is a lot of it. So I'll just show off some choice sections. There's a pre-chorus, but then you've got this whole complex. So one not too terrible. Weird sweep charting notwithstanding, that's also not too terrible. Same deal. None of these solos are that bad. Getting them all in one fell swoop, kind of tricky. Then we got pre-chorus 2. I think maybe a little bit trickier than the first one. Maybe that's the other way around. Okay, but here's why it's so bad. The last solo of the song. If your natural all strums ability is good, that one's going to look okay. For the average person, I think a lot of those sections are just not really possible to be consistent at. But it's clearly doable. I mean, I think everything up to this point is, I don't know, maybe that is more doable than like expert mode or controller for me, or Heaven's Calling. But I would think, just because if you do have that like sort of freak ability to do trills on all strums, the other songs wouldn't be as bad as this, you know what I mean? So that's why I said take the breakdown with a pinch of salt. But anyway, next song is just, it's a tapper, it's Force, which is just guitar solo 3. So what is the notes per second on those quads? You could rake it. No doubt. But that's 24 notes per second, so we're getting into like non-standard ability for most people here. 24 notes per second for one measure, but like, come on. I couldn't do it. Anyway, I'll stop there, but you see the point. It's sort of, those quads make this section a hell of a lot harder than if it was just triplets, and it was difficult when it was just triplets anyway. With a rake and a way of transitioning between the rake and the standard strumming, presuming you don't rake the triplets, yeah, sure. Again, this is right at the end of the song, so that's an issue. But it's like, the song was certainly not made to be all strumsed. Okay, next one. We got K-Trip again, we got Diachylon. So the tech is doable. But doing all of solo 5 seems like a big stretch. Anyway. This is already like a major finger twister one-handed. That's not as bad as I did there. But yeah, tricky. Solo 3. Solo 2 that really isn't worth showing. So solo 3 there, quite clearly very tricky. Then we got solo 4B. You gotta bear in mind all this stuff I've shown you so far is the preamble before the clear biggest money, which is solo 5. I don't know about you, but my hand is done. So Dakin is one of those songs where it's not fast, but the endurance is a major issue. I mean, the pattern is messed up, but you've got to hit 5A and B back to back, no breaks, before you get to this section, which that's I mean, inhuman. Like, maybe I could hit this section, every individual section is what I'm saying. Like, the tech isn't that bad, but really 5 in 1 is way more than the sum of its parts. So yeah, we're getting to the like really stupid stuff, like probably never gonna get done stuff now. So, but there is probably there are 2 levels to that as well, I guess. Like, that's feasible, right? It is possible that you could hit every single section. Same with this one, Thief in the Night Part 2, which is now way more difficult than Part 1. Just the solo to look at. Immediately very difficult. That's going to be the main issue. Then you got weird snaps, weird patterns, awkward stretches. You don't want that, but really the issue there is the trill. And I guess the ladders seem more doable. But yeah, again, I think it's tech FCable. Do that whole solo in 1. Kind of less stamina draining than Diachylon, but the notes per second is way faster, and that trill is definitely harder than anything in Diachylon. So yeah. Okay. Next up, I mentioned it earlier, but here it is, Death in General. Let's show you the whole solo. Definitely not the whole song. Alright, so, is that doable? I want to say yes, it's FCable. But how fast is this? It's Red Snake speed. This is the same speed as the Red Snake, with a much more difficult pattern. So this is already harder than Through the Fire and Flames, pretty much, right? Is one-handable? That's a bit awkward, but most of it is quite clearly like you can do it one-handed, right? But you gotta articulate each individual note. You gotta make sure you are coordinated to hell. And I don't think I think there's like a trill at the very end. There's a slow trill at the end, but like Don't buckle under the pressure after this 1 in a million section. So at this point, it's like someone could probably hit synth solo B, but that's already probably one of the best all strums sections FCs. So you gotta really want to FC Death in General on all strums to advance the list in that capacity. It's not really realistic at this point. Okay, and there are like 10 songs higher than that, just forewarning. Not necessarily harder, because at this point it's almost impossible to gauge. Like, what's harder than what? They're all impossible. How is this song more impossible than the other? Well, there are songs that are clearly more difficult than Death in General, but at the end of the day it doesn't really matter. I don't think any of these songs now will get done. So it's just for funsies, really. Maybe the highest I could see... How many songs are left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Maybe we could get it down to everything Death in General and above. Down to 13. This will never hit less than 10. I can tell you that now. It just won't happen. The limit, I mean, I would be surprised if it got less than 20. But I think, like, physically, no new tech, this is, you know, 13. If we get to 13, that's like better than the entire 150 sheet being done, probably. So, I mean, I see that as more realistic. In any case, let's have a look at the rest. Godhead. Not a sleeper necessarily, but if you haven't heard of this song, well, you will soon realize why I put it so high. Kind of reminiscent of Heaven's Calling. But way worse. So, yes, that song could go under Death in General for sure. It's probably not as hard actually, but for me, it's just the one-handing is like way worse. The one-handing is way worse than Death in General. It's a lot slower, but like it's so much more difficult at one-hand that surely. If you are very fast, I don't know, like Jarvis or Goku, and you can one-hand that, then maybe. But go on, prove me wrong. Next up, Gambit falling outside of the top 10. So, it's like impossible, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, and there's a main reason for that. So the first thing I will show you is the part that is just not doable. Kind of for similar reasons as the epic, but there's trills that are faster, and this section happens twice, once right at the very end, but it lasts forever. Like, Seize the Day is like already deemed to be near impossible, and it's like a tenth of the difficulty of this sort of thing. But I would say that the other trouble thing, the ladders, aren't that bad. And I definitely mean that relatively. See what I mean? Now I can hit them, that's one thing. But, so, they exist, but like they are minute compared to the solos, which are just not doable. And, you know, you've got to do it twice. Doing it once, that's already an impossible task. But can you do it twice? Maybe doing it twice is easier than doing it once. Who knows? But yeah. Splitting hairs between impossible songs is kind of futile, but it could be interesting maybe. I don't know. Okay, so now is this the top 10? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, I would say this is the top 10 of Rock Band Network 2 all Strums. First up is the Singularity. So, let's take a look. Not as... The thing is with the Singularity, there isn't like a ridiculous... Well, there is like a ridiculous stupid section, but it's not in the same vein as like some of the higher songs where it's like notorious, I guess, in the sense that there are just a few really stupid sections. So, the first one is verse 1B. One of the more manageable ones for sure. Way, I hit it. And then we've got another one that would normally stand out in any other song, but in the Singularity it doesn't really, but it's still difficult. Just because that trill, really. Right, but that's all just like hogwash compared to the two big ones. They're just maniacal. What's the NPS on this? It's faster than Death in General. It's 27 flat. Not for as long, but there are two of these sections. The other one less one-handable. That's just stupid. It's just stupid. Who's gonna hit this section even once? Again, it's 27 notes per second. So you've got two 27 notes per second sections in here. Neither of them particularly linear. And there is a kind of a choke section here. But you're not going to miss it if you're going for this song. Because no one's going to go for this song. But obviously it's like nothing compared to the actual difficult sections. But yeah, again, you can make a case that Death in General is harder than that because the hard part is longer. But there is only one of them, and I think it's a bit more one-handable than Bridge 2B. As I say, it doesn't really matter though. Next up, Scarred. The solo in Scarred. I mean, let's just look at it. We are well into impossible territory here. You can't really one-hand this section, and you got to do it on all strums. So, how fast is this? This is again 27 notes per second. It's 0.06 notes per second slower than the first stuff in the Singularity, but way less one-handable. So, yeah, I mean, can you hit this section one-handed? Really? Can you do it? Maybe if you did like 6 quads, you know? Not gonna happen. Next up, I mean, none of these are gonna happen at this point. This is like well into, I would say, I guess, like the Singularity. Maybe you could say, or like, yeah, someone might be able to do that. But the rest of this stuff is just. Like, we are decades off being able to do this stuff, you know. At that point, no one's going to care about the game, especially on these spreadsheets. So, anyway, synesthesia only takes a second to make a song impossible, and here is some proof. D, possible. C, not possible. Unless there's new tech. So again, we got the 30 seconds. This is Red Snake Speed Trill. So yeah, Red Spake Steed. What the hell? Red Snake Speed Trill. So we were talking about Death in General. Red Snake Speed Sweep. But now you got to do a trill. So this is not one-handable for really anybody. And yeah. You also got to strum that speed. Rake it, no doubt. Nothing else really needs to be said. It doesn't matter how difficult the rest of the song is. Okay, next one kind of weird. I mean, maybe it's not as bad as some of the stuff we've seen, but I mean, it's on and on. Kind of difficult to play this because it's like clearly not possible, but how impossible is it? I mean, maybe the fact that you could I could possibly see one of these sections being hit ever would put it like below a singularity, but like, come on. $3B looking kind of doable actually, but 2A, I mean, that's like way worse. They're both extremely difficult in any case, and then hitting them both, like, there's nothing consistent about it, unlike the K-Trop songs. It's just completely random notes. So yeah, although it may be physically more possible, I just think, like, the memory required, if nothing else, like, you gotta know, oh, I need to do that 50 notes per second zig now, not 1 note later. You know what I mean? Okay, now we're up to, that was number 7, up to number 6, The Fall of Philanthropy. So, immediately you're blindsided by this section. So the song's already impossible within the first minute, but there are plenty of other sections that would stop you from doing this. So let's have a look at the solo. Actually, the solo I could see getting done. Or could I? Maybe not, actually. Certainly not for any of the sections we've seen so far, they're just like mildly tricky. I suppose I could see the solo being done. But, you know, there are 3 trills of that speed in this song. In fact, one of them's an orange to blue wall. And then you got all this other stuff to contend with. Probably only needed one of those trills to seal the deal on this one. This one actually, because it's not as fast, maybe I've placed it too high. Like, how quick are the trills? Because this would make quite a substantial difference, I would think. Like, the difficulty of doing trills at high speeds is more exponential, I would have thought. So this is only 21 notes per second, so actually that's considerably slower than Synesthesia, so maybe this one could go down a few pegs. But it's not a one-section song either. For all intents and purposes, it's not happening. Next one, I mean, we get our NPS spike absurdity with number 5, which is Dystopia. I will show you more than I need to. But realistically, it's one section that makes this impossible. Immediately just a really difficult trill to do. On an awkward split as well. And of course this is all just a warm-up. Here comes the true money. So, you already knew that that was there, but did you know how fast it is? Because I don't, but I'm very curious. "36 notes per second, so this is a good 10 notes per second faster than the red snake. For one beat, yes, but this is also not one-handable. Like, how many triplets? I could probably do 4, maybe 5. And certainly not over 2 different like triplets. So yeah, maybe you can get a raking method down for this. I don't know, but the one-handing is not really feasible considering how precise you have to be more precise. It is Clone Hero, yes, but you do have to be more precise with this sort of stuff. And then you got all the stuff before it as well, like, and the trill. Let's not forget there is a trill in this song, enough to make many songs impossible. So yeah, this is, I mean, 36 notes per second strumming. So number 4. Maybe this one's too high. Maybe not. In any case, it's clearly not possible. So this is 13. So, whereas a lot of K-Trop, I'm not going to play this, whereas a lot of K-Trop stuff is like one beat and done, this is like a full like middle 8 of trilling that's way too fast to do anything with. So the trills are 20 notes per second. You gotta, if you're not raking it, you gotta standard that for way longer than Devil Intro. A lot of people can do that nowadays, fair enough. You gotta have the stamina with this hand to do that for that long. It's not really linear. You can see it just keeps changing up and about. The Renault changes. Speed changes, you got breaks. Actually, you only get breaks at the very end, fair enough. I mean, it's not as fast as Dystopia, but like, I don't see either of them ever getting hit, you know what I mean? This song is a bit more boring than Dystopia to play as well. Not that that makes that much difference, but yeah, in case you needed another reason to never try this on all strums, there you go. But yeah, it's just not happening. Never gonna happen. Section's never gonna happen either. So that's what we're looking at. We're at the top 3, and now these 3 are the big 3, I guess. Like, probably the 3 that you would think of when you think of Rock Band Network 2, like, they're never gonna happen. So the first one, although you could probably put them in any order, but I've got like very loose reasons for putting them in this order. First one is Entropy Extra-P. I'll show you some of the other stuff before we show you the big money. So solo 1 is not worth showing you. So let's show you solo 2 instead. 2A to D. A not to be slept on. Very fast. Okay, so how could anything be harder than that? I mean, this is the worst trill song in just ever. I mean, that's it. It's as simple as that. This is the worst trill song in any of the sections. So, much like worse than Surfing with the Alien and stuff. So how could anything be more difficult than that? Well, my thought process for not putting it at number 1 is that well, maybe there could be some trill all-strum tech invented at some point. I don't know. But if it is, and it becomes not that difficult to do, trills all-strum, this song is not... I mean, it's doable. You know what I mean? But, I mean, right now, for all intents and purposes, it's impossible. Like, beyond impossible. 24 notes per second trills. Yes, synesthesia is faster. Maybe you could say OGAP is the worst trill song, actually, but... I mean, as far as, like, straightforward trills... that's what we're looking at. And it's not free afterwards either, just in case that day ever comes. And you've got this nice and chokeable doublet section. No pressure at all. Not that terrible, but it exists. So yeah, entropy, extropy. Just say the name entropy, extropy, all Strums, and it's like, it's a joke, right? No one would ever be serious about going for a song like this, or any of these three songs. So the next one, the longest song, Hourglass Part 2. I mean, this is the hardest song on Rock Band 3, just full stop. Why is it not as bad as Chiasm? Well, it probably is. I don't know for sure. I don't think anybody can say that for sure. But for me, it's, and this is what I mean, like, as tenuous and loose, it's more one-handable, I guess, than Chiasm. Anyway, let me show you the sections. And there are way more sections in this than there are in Chiasm, but I don't think any of them get as bad as 2D. Let's have a Modesty 2 CFC. Oh, I haven't even given that. So already we've not even got up to the money, and it's stuff that would make any song very hard on all Strums. Oy, that gets so fast. Every section here, I would say, is like hittable, but this is rather quick. Those quads, 27 notes per second, and then you got just like impossible, you know. How fast are the zigs? Like, I don't even know how fast the zigs are. So, about 28. Me out of those notes look a bit messed up. That doesn't look like how it should. But in any case, yeah, not really any of these four sections FCable on all Strums, and there are 4 in a row, and they're after solo 2. So what's the point? Okay, weird snapping aside, it's 28 notes per second. Very one-handable pattern. A lot of that kind of isn't. All those triplets aren't. Solo B isn't. Solo A, I mean, yes, you can do the zigs that way, but Come on, who are we kidding? So yeah, the only reason I would put this below Chiasm is because Chiasm 2D, I just don't see it being one-handed in any capacity. So we'll have a look. First thing to note is actually drum solo. I mean, it's child's play compared to the rest. And yeah, let's not forget about solo 1. Not as fast as Dystopia, but very similar. It's 28 notes per second. It's as fast as the sweeps at the end of Hourglass Part 2, but much less one-hand friendly. And also after a hell of a lot of strumming, just nonsense that is also never going to get hit probably. But of course, the main thing is 2D, which I will not grace you with an attempt to hit this on all strums. It's less concentrated. Oh, no, it's equally concentrated. It looks probably not as bad as Hourglass. But I find that if you compare this pattern to anything in Hourglass, it's worse, right? How are you going to one-hand that? You're not going to do it. I mean, unless there's like an idiot. But then that gets into, I guess, meme raking, moosing, which I don't know, I guess is a viable thing. But that's like the only option of hitting a section like this, I would think, would be to get lucky doing your tackle, slide, whatever the hell. Which I will not entertain. So that's it. That's the 62 UnFCed songs. Some, maybe, I don't know, about half of them could get done. Probably not with too much difficulty. But then it just gets so impossible that it's not even funny. You know, I'm saying the top 30 and just never gonna happen. And then like most of them won't ever get tech FC'd within that. But it's interesting to see, like, what is the limit? Will any of these the big 13 ever get done? Will Godhead get FC'd by somebody? I doubt it. I mean, it would be interesting for this to see, like, the sections get done, like, you know, solo 2D, all strums FC in 2037, when I have nothing to do with the game. But you know what I mean. Maybe someday. But that's the current state of affairs. If Rock Band Network 1 gets weeded, I will go through that as well. And I would thought it would probably not be as long as this one. There are fewer impossible K-Trope songs in that one. But the first thing I could think of is something like Reaper. So there you go, there's one. And plenty more, but I will leave that for that video. So thank you for watching if you have, and I'll see you later.